Your iPhone used to be fast. You remember it. Apps snapped open, videos scrubbed smoothly, and typing felt instant. And then, sometime this year, it started to lag. A half second here. A stutter there. Now it hesitates. The camera takes a beat to open. Scrolling snags for no reason. Nothing broke, nothing cracked, nothing fell in a puddle. It just quietly got slower, the way a tired thing gets slower. Now the billboards appear, the new model, thinner, faster, glowing on the subway wall and in every ad break. The launch event, the countdown, the shiny slow-motion footage. Suddenly, the phone in your hand feels ancient. And you feel it, that gut suspicion millions of people share. The timing is too clean. Your phone slows down right as they want you to buy the next one. It can't be a coincidence. Can it? That gut feeling has a name, and almost everyone reaches for it. The phone slows, the ad appears, and the mind connects the dots. They did this on purpose. They flipped a switch to make you buy the new one. It is a satisfying story. A villain in a boardroom, a dial marked, "Slow the old ones down," turned up the weak, the new model ships. And the sheer scale of these companies makes the accusation feel obvious. Apple pulls in hundreds of billions of dollars a year. Its own filing with United States regulators reported total revenue north of $400 billion for its 2025 fiscal year. When a company that size touches your phone, suspicion is the reasonable default. So the crowd settled on the simplest answer: deliberate sabotage to force upgrades. And here is the twist that makes this worth understanding. The crowd was wrong about the villain, and closer to the truth than they knew. Because the real reason your phone slowed is more innocent than a boardroom conspiracy. There was no dial, but the way the company handled it turned out to be more damning than the slowdown itself. To see how, we have to open the phone. But the truth is quieter than any conspiracy, and it starts with something you can't see. Because the part of your phone that's actually aging isn't the screen or the chip. It's a slab of chemistry sealed inside the case. It's a lithium-ion battery. And unlike the glass and the metal, it isn't built to last the life of the phone. It's built to fade, slowly, invisibly, from the very first charge. Think of it less like a fuel tank and more like a chemical that's alive and constantly reacting. Every second it holds a charge, tiny reactions are happening inside, and each one nudges the battery a hair closer to the end of its useful life. This is the character the whole story really turns on. Not a greedy engineer at a whiteboard. A component that was decaying the moment you slid the phone out of its box, before you'd even set your wallpaper. And this isn't Apple's dirty secret. It's just how the chemistry works in every phone on the shelf. Manufacturers know it, engineers plan around it, the whole industry treats it as a fact of life. So if the battery is quietly wearing out from day one, the real question isn't whether it fades. It's how it fades. What exactly is running down inside there? And why does using the phone speed it up? So how exactly does that chemical component wear down? Not all at once, and not from age alone. It wears out from being used the one way you use it every single day. You charge it, you drain it, you charge it again. Engineers count that in charge cycles. One full cycle is draining the equivalent of the whole battery and topping it back up. 2 half charges count as 1. Every cycle leaves a tiny bit of the chemistry a little less able to hold what it once held. It is a slow, invisible tax on every top-up. You never feel a single cycle. But they stack. Hundreds of them, over a year or two of daily charging, and the tank that once held a full day quietly holds a little less. And this is not a defect. It is written into the spec sheet. Battery makers actually rate a lithium-ion cell by how many cycles it takes before capacity falls to about 80% of what it started with. 80% is the expected finish line, not the failure. For most phones, that 80% mark lands somewhere in the hundreds of cycles, which, if you plug in most nights, is roughly 1 to 2 years of ordinary living. The number isn't sinister. It's chemistry keeping a schedule you never agreed to. Here's what that 80% really means, though. It is not just a smaller tank. A worn battery also gets weaker at delivering power in a hurry. And that limitation, hiding behind a friendly percentage, is where all the trouble begins. But a tired battery does not just hold less. It also loses its punch. And that punch matters far more than most of us ever realize, because a phone does not sip power at a steady, gentle rate. It gulps. When the screen wakes, the camera fires, the processor spikes to open an app, your phone demands a sudden, enormous burst of current in a fraction of a second. A fresh battery hands that over without flinching. An old battery cannot. As the chemistry wears down, its internal resistance climbs. Think of it as the battery getting stiff and clogged inside, so power flows out slower, like sucking a thick milkshake through a narrowing straw. So here is the collision. The processor demands its instant burst. The worn battery cannot deliver that burst fast enough. And for a split second, the voltage sags below the level the phone needs just to stay alive. When that happens, the phone does the only safe thing it can. It shuts itself off. Not out of malice, but self-preservation, the way an engine cuts out rather than run itself into damage. And this is what made it maddening. The battery showed 30, 40, even 50% charge, and the phone still died in your hand on a cold morning. Plenty of fuel in the tank, but no way to burn it fast enough. So Apple's engineers had a real problem sitting in their hands, a worn battery that could quietly kill the phone whenever the processor demanded a sudden burst. And there was a clever way out that had nothing to do with the battery at all. If the battery could no longer handle the big sudden spikes, then the fix was simple. Don't let the phone ask for them. Cap how hard the processor is allowed to push, and the battery never gets a demand it can't meet. This is exactly what Apple later confirmed it did. A power management feature that smoothed out the peak performance on phones with degraded batteries, so the voltage never dropped off a cliff. No sudden shutdown. The phone just kept running. As engineering, it's genuinely elegant. A dying battery would rather shut your phone off at 40% than admit it's tired. The software steps in and says, slow down and you'll stay alive. It trades a little speed for stability. And here's the part that made it invisible. This feature didn't arrive with a warning or a switch you could flip. It slipped in through a routine software update, the kind your phone downloads overnight while you sleep. You tapped install because it promised bug fixes and improvements. You woke up, and somewhere inside your phone had quietly agreed to hold itself back. You never chose it. You never even knew there was a choice. A change that quiet leaves no announcement, no pop-up, no line in the release notes. It just lives in the code, waiting. And it might have stayed invisible forever, if not for John Poole, the founder of the company behind the Geekbench benchmark. He noticed his own older phone felt sluggish. So he did something most of us never bothered to do. He ran a benchmark, a little program that measures raw speed, and he wrote the number down. Then he swapped in a fresh battery. Same phone, same software. The only thing that changed was the little chemical cell inside. And when he ran the exact same test again, the speed leapt back up. There it was. The performance was not tied to the phone's age at all. It was tied to the health of the battery. Fresh cell, fast phone. Worn cell, slow phone. A clean, repeatable line. That result was almost too simple to ignore. He posted it online, and other people started running the same test on their own phones. The pattern held. Different devices, same story, over and over. What had lived quietly in a software update was suddenly out in the open, backed by charts anyone could reproduce. This was no longer a hunch or a rumor. It was a measurement, and measurements are very hard to argue with. Once that finding started spreading, screenshot after screenshot, the company could no longer just let the whispers travel. A reporter at CNET went straight to the source and asked the obvious question: was Apple slowing down old phones on purpose? And here is where it gets interesting. Apple didn't deny it. In a statement to CNET, the company confirmed it had built performance controls tied to battery health and turned them on for older iPhones. The suspicion was suddenly, officially, true. The reasoning they gave was the engineering one: worn batteries, sudden shutdowns, software easing the peaks to keep the phone alive. On its own, that explanation actually holds together. It's a fix, not a scheme. So if the fix was reasonable, why did it feel like a betrayal? Because of one small, load-bearing detail. Nowhere in that routine update did Apple tell you it was happening. No notice, no toggle, no line explaining that your phone had quietly been dialed down. The slowdown had a legitimate reason living inside it. But the decision to keep that reason invisible, to let millions of people assume their phones were simply dying, that was a choice. And that choice was about to get very, very expensive. Admitting it quietly is one thing, but a company can only stay quiet for so long once lawyers get involved, and the silence Apple kept turned out to carry a very specific price. In the United States, the anger became a class action lawsuit. Millions of people who felt their phones had been slowed without warning wanted answers, and eventually they wanted to be paid. Rather than fight it out for years, Apple agreed to settle. The number that ended the American case was around $500 million paid out to affected United States consumers. Split across everyone who qualified, that $500 million worked out to a modest sum per phone, not a fortune to any one person. But as a headline number, it announced that the silence had a cost. Then France weighed in and framed the whole thing differently. Their consumer regulator didn't fine Apple for slowing the phones. They fined Apple 25 million euros for not telling people that a software update could do it. Notice what the French penalty was really about. Not the engineering, the disclosure. And to a company whose yearly revenue runs into the hundreds of billions, these fines were tiny. Yet they marked exactly where the line had been crossed. So money changed hands, apologies were made, and lawyers moved on. But strip away the fines and the outrage, and a strange thing becomes clear. The actual engineering behind that slowdown was pretty defensible. Remember the problem the engineers faced? A tired battery can't deliver those sudden bursts, so the phone dies at moderate charge. Given that choice, what would you rather have? A phone that shuts off, cold in the middle of a call, unpredictably, again and again? Or a phone that quietly runs a little slower but stays alive all day? Framed like that, throttling isn't sabotage. It's a rescue. Trading a bit of speed to stop a device from collapsing is exactly the kind of clever trade-off good engineering is made of. If Apple had put that choice in front of people, most would have understood it in a heartbeat. And that's the real offense. Not the slowdown, the silence around it. The fix was reasonable, the way it arrived was not. It slipped in through a routine update while people were left to wonder why their phones felt like they were dying. A company that had done the sensible thing simply chose not to say so. And when a fix arrives in the dark, it stops looking like help and starts looking like something to hide. Honesty, it turns out, would have cost nothing. So if the slowdown was really about a dying battery, why does the phrase planned obsolescence keep surfacing? Because it names a real strategy, and it is worth getting exactly right before we blame the wrong thing. Planned obsolescence, at its core, is a design decision. You build a product with a deliberately limited useful life, so the customer has to come back and buy the next one sooner than they otherwise would. European regulators have taken this seriously for years. An advisory body there called it a waste of energy and resources, and pushed for products built to quit within 2 or 3 years to be treated as a consumer problem, not a fact of life. Here is the honest split. A lithium-ion battery wearing down is not planned obsolescence. That is chemistry doing what chemistry does, and no amount of good intentions stops it. The clock inside the cell is real physics. But there is a second set of decisions layered right on top of that physics. Not whether the battery wears out, but what happens to you when it does. And those choices are design, not chemistry. Sealing the battery inside with strong adhesive, making the back glass a project to open, turning a worn-out cell from a 5-minute swap into a repair shop appointment. None of that is the battery failing. That is the enclosure around it. And that is the line worth drawing. The wearing battery is nature. The hard-to-open case is a choice. When people say a phone is built to expire, they are usually pointing at the second thing while blaming the first. So if the battery is doing honest chemistry, why does everything about your old phone start to feel tired at once? Part of the answer is the software you keep saying yes to. Every new version of a phone's operating system is built for the newest hardware. It's bigger, does more, expects more power. Load that onto a 2 or 3-year-old device, and it fits like a coat 2 sizes too small. Now stack that heavier software on top of a battery already running low on peak power. The slowdown you feel is the two things meeting. Old chemistry, new demands, pushing against each other inside the same case. Here's where a design choice quietly amplifies the whole thing. In the old days, a slow phone meant a fresh battery and a snap of a plastic back. Today that battery is glued deep inside, behind seals and adhesive. So the one fix that would make an old phone feel young again is the hardest thing for a normal person to do. When swapping the worn part feels like surgery, buying a whole new device starts to look like the reasonable option. And notice when all of this comes to a head. The sluggishness, the swollen software, the nagging sense that your phone is past it. It lands in the same stretch of the calendar as the glossy ads for the model that fixes all of it. No one has to conspire for that timing to work on you. Heavier software, a battery you can't easily swap, and a launch campaign built to arrive right on schedule. 3 ordinary things lining up to make old feel obsolete. So the phone in your pocket isn't scheming against you, and it isn't really aging like you thought either. It's aging like something alive. There's a chemical clock inside it, and it started running the second you unboxed it. Every charge you plug in nudges that clock forward a tick. The slowdown you feel isn't a signal from a marketing team. It's the sound of chemistry doing exactly what chemistry does, quietly, on a schedule nobody advertises. And here's the part that reframes everything. That same worn battery sits inside a device that, by Apple's own annual filing with the SEC, helped drive revenue past $400 billion in fiscal 2025. The tiny chemical component, wearing out, inside one of the largest money machines ever built. So the next time your phone stutters just as the new one glows on a billboard, you'll know it isn't a conspiracy and it isn't a coincidence. It's a battery keeping time, and a company that hoped you'd never ask why. Everyone's got one of these questions, the everyday thing they've quietly wondered about, but never chased down. So tell me yours in the comments, a price, an object, a rule you walk past every day. Subscribe, and the next answer will find you.